instead of a tax code that crushes innovation, that imposes burdens on families struggling to make ends meet. Imagine a simple flat tax. Imagine abolishing the IRS.
Texas Republican Senator Ted Cruz asking us to imagine a nation with a flat tax and without an IRS. As we continue here on America's Forum, welcome back. With Miranda Kahn, I'm J.D. Hayworth.
Of course, this came from his announcement on Monday at Liberty University when he threw in his hat into the ring for the 2016 presidential election. And
since he brought up taxes,
right,
that's an issue of great concern and maybe great appeal if you get a change. Let's go in depth on the story now with a senior fellow from the Mises Institute, Dr. Mark Thornton. So, Mark, we just heard Ted Cruz say, go to a flat tax and abolish the IRS. I just want to know, can you do both, or doesn't a flat tax mean you still got to have internal revenue to take the tax returns?
Well, it does sound really good, J.D. It sounds fabulous to me, the idea of getting rid of the IRS. But his proposal is not actually technically a flat tax. A flat tax is where we'd all pay the exact same amount. What he's talking about is a proportional tax on income where we all pay the same percentage of our income. Politically, a very difficult thing to do to get a major overhaul of the tax code like this. And it certainly wouldn't do away with the IRS, unfortunately, either.
So you talked about a certain percentage of your income. Explain again how this works in more detail economically.
Certainly. The senator's proposal is to levy a proportional tax on everyone's income, but it's not really been fleshed out yet. He did say that you'd be able to keep your mortgage interest deduction and your charitable deduction, and as you can see, as you start, granting more of these deductions, you see the tax code coming back into play and the IRS coming back into play, because who's monitoring these deductions and these interest payments? It all gets very, very difficult, and as soon as you start advocating something like an overhaul of the tax code, and in this case where everybody pays the same percentage of their net income, the special interest groups come out and start throwing money around to try to get their particular pet project excluded from the income tax. And so on paper, in the very beginning stages where you don't have to keep paperwork, you save money doing paperwork, you don't need an accountant, you just use a postcard and put your income and put your total tax bill and send a check, and there's no exclusions, so there's no distortions in the economy. Those are the things the Economist really likes. But inevitably, the special interest groups come in, they want their deductions, they want their exemptions, and then, of course, you bring the IRS right back into the picture. So,
and Mark, as you're mentioning this and shedding more light on it, as a recovering member of Congress, I remember this whole notion of hearing about a flat tax, but with the mortgage deduction and charitable deduction. Back in the day, it was my old House colleague, Mark Souder, and now the late Senator Arlen Specter, Mick, for mortgage and charitable deduction. So it's not really a flat tax. But there's another proposal out there that we heard Mike Huckabee embrace in 2008, the so-called fair tax, a consumption tax. Could you tell us about that other principled notion of income tax reform?
Certainly, and actually Senator Cruz was a co-sponsor of a bill recently in Congress that would put in what's called fair tax. Although I don't see anything fair about taxes, basically taking our money, kind of a form of slavery of sorts. But in any case, the fair tax would be a consumption tax where everything you buy out in the economy, you get to keep all your income, but when you go to purchase goods and services, you have to pay a consumption tax or a sales tax. The latest version, it would be 23%. Which, again, the economists see some merit in that kind of tax because it doesn't adversely affect savings, it doesn't adversely affect investment, It makes people more frugal, and people end up doing more of the things that they need or that they want on their own, and so people become much more self-efficient, but of course that's not really efficient. I wouldn't want to have to go out and make my own lawnmower, my own hammer, or cook, difficult meals. And so there are distortions in that kind of consumption tax as well.
So are you saying, well, especially when we're in a society that, let's face it, I mean, that's what the United States is all about, right? We're very consumer driven. What do you think is the most feasible option for us, or is there one?
Well, I think the easiest way to get out of this would be to give taxpayers an alternative, that they could, in effect, scrap the tax code and go to Plan B, which I call the maximum income tax, rather than the alternative minimum tax. This would be the alternative maximum tax, where you would just take your gross income and multiply it by, say, 8%, and that would be your tax bill. You would have no deductions, no exclusions. You'd have no personal exemptions or child exemptions. Everything that you took in terms of income, in terms of interest, in terms of capital gains, dividends, inheritance, it would all be taxed at that one low rate. And you just say, I want to switch to Plan B, no paperwork except for the 1040 forms, and you're done with it. So that could be implemented very quickly, very easily. And if the rate was too high and nobody took that alternative, then you could just lower the rate until more and more people opted out for Plan B.
Well, let me ask you, Mark, half minute remains, Mark. Have you heard from any prospective presidential candidate? Are they going to introduce your Plan B?
Unfortunately, no. My ideas are either too good or too bad, but they're definitely politically incorrect.
Well, I will tell you this, Mark, it is intriguing, and we appreciate you telling us more about Plan B.
Right.
And we'll see if a candidate picks it up. Dr. Mark Thornton from the Mises Institute, Skyping in from Alabama. We appreciate it. Hey, it's time now for a Newsmax National Weather Update with Jessica Reyes.
Hi, I'm Jessica Reyes. Here's your weather across the nation for your Thursday as we get closer into the weekend. Looks like some weather records should be challenged for today, actually temperature records. Daytime high of 83 for today in San Jose, 94 degrees for Los Angeles. Meanwhile, for today by the Great Lakes, not so much, not as hot because we are dealing with temperatures that are pretty much well below freezing. Daytime highs only reaching the lower 20s across the Great Lakes. And we dealt with some severe tornadic activity yesterday into parts of Oklahoma City, into parts of Oklahoma. Overall, most of that is out of there, and we're feeling a lot cooler conditions for Little Rock, Arkansas, Wichita as well. But those showers and thunderstorms continue moving anywhere between the Gulf of Mexico into parts of the northeastern portion of the country. Speaking of the Northeast, here's your weather for today, some weekend forecasts, and your daytime highs.
Well, appreciate that look at the weather, but I'm really intrigued by Mark Thornton's
I know
Plan
you are.
B.
I can see the wheels turning right now.
Now that I'm recovering from my time in Congress, we'll have to have more investigation of what he is suggesting. It wouldn't get rid of accountants, by the way, because you had to combine on your income and then multiply it by 8%. Some guys like me probably couldn't do that math. We're going to go from numerical thinking to more verbal fisticuffs.
I like that.
We've got our political panel and more straight ahead here as America's Forum continues from Newsmax TV.